In part 1, we covered Malice, Ryziel, Tenpai, Memento, Blue Eyes, and Branded, so this will be a continuation. 7th on my list is White Forest. Out of all the top decks, this deck has the best end board, consisting of 2 Omni Negates for protection from board breakers, a few Monster Negates with Apollousa, and usually flipping your opponent's field face down twice. This is enough to win any game. The deck is also relatively resilient to hand traps, very consistent, and can be mixed with many other decks if you're into that. We also play Fiendsmith and Millennium in this deck to bait hand traps and break boards. Next we have Mermail Atlantean, arguably one of the most toxic decks in the game. If they have full combo, the duel is arguably over before you play because they hand rip you for 3 cards, summon a barrier statue at the end, all while you watch from the chair in the corner. This deck also gains advantage from costs, so even if you imperm Prince, which is their best starter, they'll still be able to search. Meaning this deck is extremely good through hand traps as well. It might struggle going second, but it can still break boards because it gains advantage from costs, so this is definitely one of the best decks in the game. Next we have Snake Eyes Fire King. This deck is so good in the grind game because of how good Garunix keeps coming back and destroying cards, as well as having Princess, and those kinds of cards that keep coming back and gaining advantage every turn. And because this deck is Snake Eyes, and also Fire King, and Fiendsmith, it means it's really good under hand traps, can easily push to break boards and win games. And overall a healthy amount of hand traps. Even though Snake Eyes is heavily hit, this deck can still compete even in this meta. No matter what they do, this deck won't die. Tearlaments seems like it'll always just be here. It gives you that gambit taste, and overall can push through hand traps and always build a solid board. And of course, because we mix it with Kashtira and Fiendsmith, it means we can always push through hand traps and boards, which is also helped by cards like Super Polymerization and by having good luck with mills. So overall this deck can compete, and seems like it always will. This deck has been through a lot, because of all it had to deal with thanks to Malice. Everyone plays Lancea to counter Malice, but this deck also unfortunately gets heavily countered by Lancea. But dispute all this, it can still compete, especially if it goes first and sets up a board, which consists of many spell and trap negates, omni negates, and so on. And mixed with the Millennium engine, which will help consistency and board breaking capabilities, means this deck becomes more versatile. And overall a lot better, also with a healthy amount of hand traps, means you can't go wrong with this. And finally, we have Snake Eyes Fiendsmith, the best deck of a few formats ago, now barely ever seen in ranked, but still one of the best decks in the game. Overall, this deck sets up one of the best end boards in the game, and because it's Snake Eyes, it can easily push through hand traps, especially since it's also mixed with Fiendsmith and Millennium, also a healthy amount of hand traps overall. This deck is still very solid and can compete with the top decks. Make sure to subscribe if this video helped, join my Discord to chat with a like-minded community, and maybe consider becoming a channel member.